Hello everyone, my name is Emma Greening and I'm going to be discussing religion in government and specifically separation of church and state, which is a very hot button issue right now, I know, and we need to be thinking about redefining what that actually means, because I know at the moment it means, to some people, it means keeping government and religion in two separate pieces. But there really is a bigger definition to how they both should interact together. So I'm going to be bringing up three main points. Number one is where separation of church and state comes from. Number two, why the founding fathers wanted religion in government and how it's good for society. And number three, why religion, even in politics, creates virtuous citizens. Separation of church and state was a quotation by Thomas Jefferson in a letter, but is used by other people to keep the two institutions completely separated. Although religion is often scorned and removed from the political circle, the United States was originally a religious country. We still have time to take our country's ideals back. I believe that it's important to educate everyone on the term of separation of church and state by answering two questions. How did it come into being? And what did the founding fathers mean by it? Today, I want to discuss why we should keep religion in the political sphere, what separation of church and state truly is, and why becoming a virtuous nation is important to society. First of all, I want to talk about where separation of church and state originated and what the founding fathers defined it as. So here's my first main point: applying and defining separation of church and state with research. The term separation of church and state originally came into being in a letter by Thomas Jefferson addressed to the Danbury Baptist Association in Connecticut. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state, adhering to this expression of the supreme will of the nation in behalf of the rights of conscience, I shall see with sincere satisfaction the progress of those sentiments which tend to restore to man all his natural rights, convinced he has no natural right in opposition to his social duties." Unquote. Even though this quote does speak about religion being between man and his God, the quote-unquote wall built between church and state is merely the establishment of a specific religion, not the banning of it completely from politics. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution also says that, quote, "No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States," unquote, meaning that no one religion will be required of a politician. But again, the popular definition of separation of church and state that we have seen in today's vocabulary was never written into the Constitution, that church should never involve itself in politics at all. I'm now coming to my second point. I would like to talk about why our founding fathers wanted religion in our politics. Number two, in search of the answer to why the founding fathers encouraged religion in politics, I found that even though some of them were deists, they still were proponents of Christian religion. Even though this has been a controversy since our country's birth, most of the United States founders were Christian. If they were not, they were at least influenced by Christian ideals, Protestant principles. As Dr. Ryan Messamore says, quote, "The candidates' adherence to the Bible and to their particular faith traditions may say a lot more about who they are, but it doesn't say everything about how effective they would be as president," unquote. Even though religion doesn't say how well a candidate will perform always, it is effective for our culture and society. Religion also plays a serious role in that it calls for a debate about faith. We can all do a better job at making sure that we focus on the parts of society that apply to the responsibilities of president and politics, such as taxes. Thirdly, I want to discuss how religion creates a virtuous people. When religion creates a virtuous people, it not only creates law-dwelling citizens, but better societies in a whole. And that is why religion is so, especially Christian religion, is so important to society today, because we have so many problems that cannot be rectified by anything else. Religion is for the common good, and that it creates a more virtuous people, a people more inclined to keep the laws of its country. As Romans 13, 1-4 says, quote, "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good." We are also called to obey God's commandment in Titus 3:1. Put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work. A general Christian religion creates virtue. Finally, I want to remind you of my 3 points. Number 1, where separation of church and state comes from. Number 2, why the Founding Fathers wanted religion in government and how it's good for societies. And number 3, why religion, even in politics, creates virtuous citizens. I hope that you understand that church and politics can influence each other, indirectly as well as directly, through policies and through church programs to help immigrants and in many other ways. God was the original one to create both government and religion. I hope that this talk helped you to understand more about how religion and politics should interact and work together for the common good. Thank you.